commiserations to those who weren't successful this time. I'm now going to have the great honour of calling on Bernadette Ségol of the General Secretary of the ETUC to address conference. So Bernadette, if you're in the hall, can you? Bernadette's here. Thank you. Warm welcome, Bernadette. Thank you.
President and delegates, dear friends, first of all, a very good morning to all of you. I am very honored to address you once more for the third and for the last time as ETUC General Secretary at your biennial delegate conference. Over this turbulent period, Irish working people have borne the brunt of massive and unfair austerity policies. But you have been strong. You have been resilient. The Irish trade union movement has, as always, faced and moved forward. I would wish today to repeat to ICTU, to each and every one of you, the deep respect, the admiration of the whole European trade union movement. And you have been well led. I would like again to thank David Begg for his uncompromising pro-European stand, for his solidarity, as well as for his thoughtful contribution to our executive committee and the help he has given me personally. I know David isn't in the room, but I am sure that this message will reach him one way or another. The storms over Europe, of course, have not abated. The last years, the last weeks have been a tragedy for the Greek people. They have gone from bad to worse, and for them, the tragedy continues. But friends and delegates, the no in the referendum means no. It means no more of unbearable austerity. It means enough. It means stop, Schluss, and basta. Our members in Greece, the Confederation of Trade Unions in Greece and the workers, they want to stay in the Eurozone and then want to stay in the European Union, and we support them. Politicians must recognize the failure of their policies and the damage it did to people. We stick with our members. We stick with the Greek people, and a solution, a sensible solution, must be found which put the interest of people first. The ETUC always said that austerity was no solution for growth or for lowering the debt, and we have proposed concrete solutions. We have a proposal for a social compact for Europe, and we have a proposal for a big investment plan in Europe, which will be the only thing to be able to trigger growth, employment, and reducing the debt. But the reality is that workers' conditions are the only adjustment factor under current policy. And the adjustment is through the low road, the austerity misery path. On top of the austerity agenda, we face the deregulation agenda, which in fact results from it. We are told that better regulation is the solution to our economic ills. But instead of making EU legislation more effective, this better regulation, which is known as REFIT, is erecting new barriers to proper legislative procedures. And this brings me from REFIT to TTIP. And I must say, friends, that after all these years, I still have difficulties in navigating through the alphabeti spaghetti that constitutes Brussels speak. If you want, I can give you the French translation, but I don't think you are really interested, are you? So let me go to TTIP. A few words on the transatlantic trade and investment partnership with the United States. And I know you are particularly concerned about it. This is not essentially a trade deal. We would have few problems with it if it were. The ETUC supports trade that is fair, creates decent jobs, and is integrated into active labor market policies that help reconvert to better jobs. But much of the TTIP agenda is about standards. It's about bringing European and American standards more closely aligned to facilitate trade. We don't mind the avoidance of duplication, if it is the objective. We don't mind a common approach on, for instance, where seat belts in cars should be anchored. Though even on that, I understand that there are differences because Americans usually come in larger sizes than do Europeans. The fact is that regulations do not come out of thin air. They have a purpose, and that purpose is to protect our citizens. We are absolutely clear that European standards are not to be lowered but improved. Decisions about setting them must be conducted through democratic procedures, not by obscure committees or unelected regulators. And standard settings must not be frozen, must not be chilled in the kind of consultative arrangements that American companies are clamoring for. The kind of arrangements that remind us of REFIT. The ETUC has set its red lines. First, strong and enforceable labor standards, including but not limited to ILO fundamental conventions. We think that health and safety, for example, should be included too. We also want the text to make clear that the US should ratify the many conventions it hasn't ratified yet, but that in any event, they should all be fully implemented everywhere and for everyone in the United States. Now, the Commission will next week be tabling its opening proposal. We have pressed our opposition, but the thing will go on, and in the next weeks, in the next months, we will have to come back to them during the negotiation with our demands. The second imperative is to guarantee the exclusion of public services. Public services understood in the wider sense from market opening. That should be ensured through a positive list that leaves no ambiguity as to what is on the table. And third, there should be no ISDS, another of the alphabeti spaghetti, investor-state dispute settlement mechanism, the beleaguered ISDS, which is, as your General Secretary succinctly put it the other day, an affront to democracy. that gives to foreign investors special privileges to sue governments. And that is a no-go area that even the Commissioner Malmström described as toxic, although she still wants to reform it. And we say it cannot be reformed. There are alternatives to protect investors without discrimination, and these alternatives should be considered carefully. At the same time, investors have responsibilities to their workers, to the people we represent, to the consumers and to the environment, and these should be made clear in TTIP. Some people are accusing us to be motivated by anti-American sentiments in taking a strong stand on this. We are not. The fact is that we are working closely with our sisters and brothers from the IFL-CIO who share our views. Recently, in fact, yesterday, the European Parliament voted on a report. This report is positive on labor rights and public services, but unfortunately, it largely ignores public concerns about the special legal treatment for foreign investors. And the vote keeps alive the big business and big business only hope for special privileges. So the battle is not over. The negotiation will continue. I would like to thank Congress for your help in lobbying members of the European Parliament. You will have to continue to do that because one day, the day will come when the Parliament will have to vote yes or no for TTIP. Let me also mention another agreement, trade agreement, CETA. It is the agreement with Canada. The provisions for labor standards in CETA are not backed by sanctions if they are breached. It doesn't fully guarantee protection for our public services, and it includes ISDS. CETA could also serve as a Trojan horse for the 80% of American companies operating in Europe that have Canadian bases for which they could launch ISDS cases. And this is why we oppose CETA. President, friends, in an increasingly interconnected world of globalized value chain, the battle for standard setting is crucial. And however more Europe can improve, and it can, we are still the envy of the world, in this respect at least. We must fight hard and together to maintain European standards and the social model in particular. And this is now facing another insidious threat. As you know, the government of your British neighbour is seeking to renegotiate its terms of engagement with Europe. Although David Cameron has been evasive about exactly what he wants, it is clear that regulation, and in particular the labour market, is a target. I, of course, warmly welcome the joint statement that you agreed with the TUC, warning that attempts to undermine and weaken workers' protection will be opposed by your two organizations and indeed by the whole European trade union movement. But the threat is not just to British workers. If Cameron succeeds, I can well imagine others trying to follow suit and an unraveling of the rights we have fought so hard to gain over the years. It seems that the recent European Council, the British government conceded that there could be no treaty change before their referendum takes place, but that they want a legally binding guarantee that changes will be implemented in the following years. Of course, any treaty change will, in particular in your country, necessitate a referendum. And I need not tell you what that could lead to. There is a point that I expect my successor will be raising with you if events go down that route. We are adamant that any change in the treaties should include a social progress protocol that ensures that fundamental rights cannot be trumped by economic freedoms. This approach is backed at least by the Swedish government. I think that European citizens are much more likely to vote for this than for Cameron's anti-worker, anti-social approach. And colleagues, I earlier paid tribute to David Begg, and I now turn to his successor. Patricia, I know, I am absolutely sure that you will be a great leader in our European trade union community, and I, from my heart, wish you all the best for the future. The ETUC Congress in Paris in September will be electing a new team, and I hope and I expect your own Esther Lynch will be elected as an ETUC Confederal Secretary. I don't know if Esther is in the room. This will be the first time that an Irish representative will be part of the elected Secretariat. This will be another sign of the high esteem in which the Irish Congress is held. All of you will contribute, as our own Congress motto puts it, to a fair society, quality jobs, and workers' rights for Europe. I wish you a good, a forward-looking Congress, and I thank you very much.